calling for the defense of the status quo when it comes to who is a U.S. citizen.
So plenty of local families were paying very close attention today to arguments before the Supreme Court involving President Trump's push to end birthright citizenship. Our WLWT News 5's Todd Dykes live for us here in studio tonight with more on why questions about a person's legal status are causing concern for many people here at home. Hi, Todd.
Hi, Sheree and Mike. Yeah, what makes an American is such an important question for Mr. Trump that today he became the first sitting president to attend oral arguments at the Supreme Court. Now, initial reports suggest that he will not like the answer the nation's highest court will eventually hand down. After the Civil War, the 14th Amendment, which had to be agreed to by nearly 30 states, became the law of the land.
And part of that was the famous anyone born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a citizen of both the United States and the state in which they reside.
George Fee is a student of history and an attorney who specializes in immigration issues at his office in Sharonville. He's been paying close attention to an executive order President Trump signed that says babies born to parents in the U.S. illegally or temporarily are not American citizens. Legal challenges came to a head today at the Supreme Court, where justices heard arguments both in favor of and against the controversial order.
Right now, there's a lot of anxiety.
Fee says many families and international students that he works with are worried long-standing national norms could fall by the wayside.
This administration is trying to put that seed of doubt into everybody's mind. And I think that really goes against a lot of the foundation and a lot of the principles that our country has come to stand for the last 250 years.
Well, I think we need to think about how all this is affecting our rights and our community as a whole.
Samantha Searle says her organization, Ignite Peace, has worked with children of immigrants for years. She's among those who want the Supreme Court to keep the status quo when it comes to who a citizen is.
And just think of all the children of immigrants that have become leaders in our community. It's a no-brainer of something that we need to keep because it's going to hurt us really badly if we don't.
Now, it's clear that President Trump feels very differently. After today's court session, he said on social media the U.S. is the only country, quote, stupid enough to allow birthright citizenship. That's not true, since about 36 countries guarantee citizenship to kids born on their territory. Todd Dykes, WLWT News 5.